Greetings, trailblazers of the unseen path. The most unsettling kind of tempest isn't the one raging on the horizon, but the silent surge that erupts from beneath their very feet. In the realm of psychology, we encounter cognitive dissonance, that jarring discord when the mind confronts a truth it vehemently resisted. You have in essence become a walking embodiment of this phenomenon. A single decisive stroke from you has sent those who believed they had you neatly categorized into a frantic mental spiral, muttering, "What in the world just transpired?" It's not merely that you took them by surprise, you fundamentally altered the very architecture of their perception. The narrative they had meticulously crafted around you erased, their painstakingly assembled opinion reduced to dust. You haven't simply altered the dynamics. You've instilled a profound doubt about their comprehension of the underlying principles. And the irony, while some feign indifference, their sudden obsessive scrutiny of your every action suggests you've become their sole preoccupation. Your actions defied expectation, transcended gradual progression. It was a bolt from the blue, and lightning doesn't seek permission before illuminating the landscape. It etches an indelible mark so deeply that its echoes resonate for generations. So let us dissect the reasons behind their utter lack of preparedness for your recent feat and the subsequent questioning of everything they believed about you. Firstly, it transcends mere victory. You have redefined the very parameters of success. They anticipated your pursuit of the finish line they had painstakingly constructed. Their assumption was that you could only prevail by adhering to the well-worn path they had trod for years. But instead of charging towards the prize they dangled before you, you deconstructed the conventional understanding of triumph itself. You haven't simply claimed the trophy. You've rendered the trophy obsolete. What unnerves them most is the imperceptible nature of the shift until it was fully realized. Their strategy hinged on predictable responses, a certain move from you met with a predetermined counter. However, when you disregarded their playbook, every meticulously planned countermeasure became futile. You introduced an outcome beyond their capacity to process. This isn't just about shock. You've compelled them to acknowledge the gaping flaws within the very system they championed. They're now trapped in a mental loop, revisiting every interaction, seeking missed clues that you were operating on an entirely different plane. They oscillate between viewing you as a visionary, a menace, or perhaps both. But one thing is certain: they will never underestimate you again. Your maneuver didn't merely expose their short-sightedness, it painfully highlighted the dependence of their so-called expertise on antiquated conditions that crumble under pressure. The sharpest sting for them lies here. Their authority rested on dictating the terms of achievement. By controlling the criteria, they believed they could control the outcome. But your victory circumvented their approval, rendering their validation meaningless. They cannot gatekeep what they cannot quantify. You have demonstrated that true victory lies not in surpassing them within their game, but in rendering their game irrelevant. Now, with each attempt to re-establish their position, they must silently contemplate how to prevent another such disruption. That is the kind of disruption that defies preparation, because it originates from an understanding that true power is not bestowed, it is seized. That is the reason for their unease. They haven't merely lost to you, they've lost the comforting illusion of understanding the world's workings, and no strategy manual can rescue them from that. Secondly, you have shattered their meticulously crafted reality. For an extended period, they functioned within a comfortable, self-serving version of reality, one that reinforced their ego, their control, and their worldview. While not necessarily factual, it was convenient, and they embraced it because it shielded them from uncomfortable truths. You have now demolished the foundation of that comfort. With a single action, you expose the artificiality of their cherished reality, revealing its reliance on unfounded assumptions, second-hand information, and illusions they dared not question. The impact was more severe than they anticipated, as individuals rarely recognize their confinement within a bubble until it bursts. The resulting shock stems not merely from the newfound truth, but from the realization of their prolonged reliance on misinformation. They now confront the possibility that their misjudgment extends beyond you, encompassing the systems, individuals, and beliefs upon which they've constructed their lives. This isn't merely unsettling, it's identity-shattering. The most challenging aspect for them is acknowledging that you did not invent the lie, you merely exposed it. The deception is no longer external, it resides within their own reflection. They must now contend with their willing acceptance of a narrative that aligned with their comfort zone despite contradictory evidence. You did not manipulate the truth. You rendered it undeniable, and that is irreversible. This is why they are now questioning everything. If their perception of you, someone they believed they understood, was so flawed, what other areas of their judgment are compromised? Who else have they misjudged? Which purported facts in their lives are merely elaborate fictions? This kind of mental unraveling has no end point. It gnaws at them, destabilizing the very core of their thinking. What truly stings is that you didn't simply challenge their opinion. You rewrote the rules they believed governed truth itself. Once the cracks in their own reality become visible, they cannot be ignored. Every assumption now feels suspect. Every belief feels precarious. They may outwardly project composure, but internally they are navigating a mental earthquake you triggered without uttering a word. Thirdly, you have silently eliminated their favored excuse. For years they have clung to a convenient narrative to rationalize your accomplishments, that you possessed some undisclosed advantage, that fortune smiled upon you, that unseen forces were manipulating events in your favor. It was their protective shield, shielding them from the truth that you toiled for what you possessed, that you endured hardships they couldn't withstand, and that you persevered when they retreated. That excuse was their security blanket. Without it, they would be compelled to confront their own avoidance of the very dedication and courage required to create something substantial. Then you executed something so irrefutable, so firmly rooted in skill and discipline, that it dismantled every hiding place they occupied. No amount of narrative manipulation could portray it as luck. It was pure ability, resilience, and timing, attributes that cannot be faked, purchased, or inherited. Suddenly, their cherished explanation crumbled. They couldn't claim you had it easy. They couldn't attribute it to handouts. They were forced to acknowledge your merit, and that truth is the most piercing of all. The sting arises from the self-reflection that realization compels. If your triumph was purely earned, what becomes of their own rationalizations? If you ascended without assistance, why do they remain at the base? Your accomplishment serves as a mirror reflecting an unflattering image. It reveals the missed opportunities, the avoided risks, the sacrifices they never made. It exposes that their limitations were self-imposed, not dictated by external forces. They may attempt to downplay it publicly, but privately it consumes them. The disparity between your achievements and their own can no longer be explained away. It is not a matter of unequal opportunities or unfair advantages. It is a matter of will, focus, and consistency. That is the one comparison they cannot win because it demands effort they were unwilling to exert. And now, each time they witness your success, they will experience the quiet ache of knowing they could have strived harder but chose not to. You haven't simply eliminated their excuse, you've deprived them of their ability to hide from themselves. That is a wound that heals slowly, regardless of their outward pretense. Fourthly, you have cast their efforts as mere stalling tactics. They have flaunted their dedication for years, long hours, countless meetings, a constant stream of projects. Superficially, it resembled progress, but in reality it was largely motion devoid of direction. Then you arrived and with a single decisive action accomplished what all their tireless efforts failed to achieve. It was a jarring disruption. Suddenly their work ethic appears not as commitment, but as a cleverly disguised method of avoiding tangible results. What stings most deeply is the speed and clarity of your actions. You didn't require years of deliberation. You didn't need ideal conditions. You didn't await universal agreement. You identified the objective, acted with precision, and delivered an outcome they couldn't ignore. In contrast, their routines now appear suspiciously like stalling. The kind of busy work that creates the illusion of momentum while perpetually deferring genuine change. This isn't merely embarrassing, it's exposing. You have unveiled the chasm between activity and accomplishment, a chasm they've been hiding within for a long time. Their diligent work was safe. It allowed them to claim progress without ever risking failure. Your actions demonstrated that true progress requires risk, decisiveness, and a willingness to disrupt comfort zones, all of which they've actively avoided. They are now compelled to confront the reality that they've been circling the same starting point while deceiving themselves into believing they were advancing. And the worst part, others see it too. Colleagues, peers, even their silent supporters. They can all discern the difference between your concrete results and their endless preparation cycles. The comparison is unflattering, and no amount of spin can alter that. Deep down, they know they've been delaying under the guise of diligence, and now with your example before them, they cannot deny it. Every future undertaking will be haunted by the unspoken question: am I truly moving forward, or am I merely keeping busy to avoid confronting my fears? That is the uncomfortable truth your actions have brought to light, and it will not be easily forgotten. Fifthly, you have demonstrated that mastery is attainable without their sanction. For a considerable time, they behaved as if they were the gatekeepers. Access to recognition resources or influence required their approval. Their identity was built around this role of arbiter, determining who was worthy and who was not. The problem for them is that you have proven their gates were never the only route. In fact, you demonstrated that their path was entirely unnecessary. Your success bears no stamp of their approval, and that is what stings. You sought no permission, you awaited no invitation, you pleaded for no validation. You created something so undeniable that it circumvented their entire system. They were prepared to deny you access, but you generated your own platform, your own audience, your own leverage, and it worked. This shakes their sense of power to its core, suggesting their control was merely an illusion. Now they must confront the uncomfortable reality that authority derived directly from results renders their role as decision-makers obsolete. They cannot discredit your accomplishments without appearing bitter or out of touch, and they cannot claim credit having played no part in them. Each mention of your name serves as a reminder that someone they did not select rose nonetheless. This threatens not only their ego, it threatens their entire system. Gatekeeping is effective only when individuals believe there is no alternative path to success. You have proven otherwise. This alters the mindset of everyone observing. Others who felt obstructed or overlooked now see a different route, creating a ripple effect beyond their control. The worst part for them is their inability to shut down your path, revoke your credentials, which are your results, or exclude you from your own table. You've demonstrated that genuine mastery isn't granted. It's constructed, and once it exists, it requires no validation to stand tall. That truth is irreversible regardless of their desires. Sixthly, you operated in silence until the outcome became irreversible. Your actions were discreet, without announcements, progress reports, or breadcrumbs for them to follow. While they focused on overt moves and open conflicts, you were building quietly beyond their reach. Each decision, each step forward was taken without fanfare. Not from insecurity, but from the understanding that silence is the strongest defense against interference. By the time they became aware of your actions, they were complete. That's what unnerves them most. The finality. There's no chance to impede you, twist the narrative, or obstruct your path. They didn't just lose control over the result, they were excluded from the game entirely. That kind of power is quiet but devastating. It proves that decisive victories don't require public battles. They are accustomed to detecting impending moves, relying on whispers, rumors, and subtle cues for early countermeasures. But you provided nothing, no hints, no warnings, not even a shadow of your plan. That is why your success felt sudden. They were not simply unprepared, they were ambushed. Ambushed individuals react with panic, not strategy. They now replay every event, wondering how you maintained secrecy, who was complicit, and why they missed the signals. The truth is, you didn't need to conceal. You simply owed them no disclosure. You chose to protect your progress until it was unstoppable, demonstrating a level of control they cannot match. The irreversible outcome is the real blow. They cannot undo it, surpass it, or bury it without appearing desperate. Your name is permanently linked to the accomplishment, and history provides no erasers. Each citing of the results reminds them that while they anticipated a fight, you were quietly winning the war. That kind of move permanently alters their perception of you, ensuring they will never underestimate you again. Seventhly, you have dispelled the myth of replaceability. They have reassured themselves with the belief that no one is indispensable, that your departure would not disrupt the status quo. It was a comforting illusion of power, suggesting they could dismiss anyone without consequence. You have proven them wrong. Your actions revealed that you are not merely a small component. You are the fulcrum upon which everything turns. Your absence or directional shift was the evidence they didn't expect to confront, and the longer they pretended it was inconsequential, the more prominent the flaws became. Now every misstep, delay, and decline in quality underscores your role as the stabilizing force. They cannot spin the situation without acknowledging their struggle, and they cannot conceal it because the results speak louder than their words. This truth is particularly painful because it compels them to acknowledge that their safety net was you. They may downplay it, but they secretly relied on you more than they admitted. And the most unsettling aspect, demonstrating one's irreplaceability permanently shifts the balance of power. They can no longer threaten you with dismissal, having witnessed the collapse of the operation in your absence. That is a fact they can never unlearn, regardless of their efforts. Eighthly, you have forced them to confront the illusion of their control. They operated with the assurance of those who believed they have you figured out. They knew your limits and anticipated your actions, believing they could block any path you chose. That sense of control made them feel invulnerable. However, control is contingent on cooperation. The moment you deviated from their script, their grip loosened and it shattered completely with your latest action. They had built strategies around predictable patterns, assuming you would react within their boundaries. You were expected to seek their approval, operate within their resources, and confine your thinking to their framework. Instead, you transcended that framework, demonstrating your ability to create opportunities beyond their reach. That's when they confronted the uncomfortable truth. Their control was conditional, dependent on your cooperation. Now they questioned the authenticity of their authority, wondering how much was real and how much was a fabrication sustained by convincing people there were no alternatives. You exposed the walls they erected around you as simple fences with open gates. Your departure was unstoppable, and that reality is more impactful than any other action you could have taken. What exacerbates their situation is the public witnessing. Those who once feared their control now see its limitations, altering the entire power dynamic. You didn't just liberate yourself, you shattered the illusion for everyone watching. A broken illusion cannot be rebuilt with the same strength. They may attempt to reassert authority, but it will lack its previous solidity. You demonstrated that imposed limitations are effective only if accepted. Upon your refusal, they relinquish every ounce of perceived control. That truth is unforgettable and unforgivable. Ninthly, you have revealed their years of underestimating you. They operated with a false perception of you, one they embraced to feel superior and secure. They believed they understood you, knew your limits, and could predict your capabilities. You didn't correct them, valuing the advantage of being underestimated. Their arrogance became your shield. The more they perceived you as harmless, the less they prepared for your potential. They ceased close observation, trivialized your importance, and left vulnerabilities they wouldn't have otherwise. That's the mistake they cannot rectify. Your move wasn't merely surprising, it was revelatory. The disparity between their perception and your reality was vast, and they stand on the wrong side, unable to bridge the gap. What unnerves them is that this wasn't a sudden transformation. You are always capable. They simply didn't notice, blinded by their condescension. Now they must confront the fact that their underestimation was a weakness, not a strength. You were outweighing them quietly, building, learning, and preparing while they indulged in their inflated sense of control. Consequently, you were prepared when they weren't. By the time they realized it, it was too late. The worst part is knowing this will never happen again, because they will never underestimate you again. The damage is done. The element of surprise is lost. They've learned that arrogance blinds, that you were never small. You simply allowed them to believe it until it suited you to reveal the truth, and that truth is overwhelming. Tenthly, you have proven that vision surpasses resources every time. They possessed everything deemed necessary for success: connections, wealth, influence. On paper, they were unbeatable. But ultimately, those advantages couldn't replicate your creation. That's because resources without vision are merely raw materials without a blueprint, and you possessed not just a plan, but clarity, focus, and an insight that is not for sale. Your actions demonstrate that money can open doors, but vision builds the house. They could fund projects, hire talent, and leverage influence, yet still fall short. Why? Because they pursued outcomes without comprehending the process. They relied on abundance to compensate for lack of direction, believing that increased resources could replace a lack of understanding. You showed that it doesn't work that way. What strikes them hardest is that vision amplifies the value of resources. So to wrap it all up, the core message here is about the power of authentic action. It's about defying expectations, shattering limiting beliefs, and ultimately claiming your own victory, not just by playing the game better, but by redefining the game itself. It's a reminder that true influence comes not from authority or resources alone, but from the clarity of your vision and the courage to execute it even in silence. It's about creating a reality that speaks for itself. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever experienced a situation where you defied expectations or witnessed someone else do it? What resonated most with you from this breakdown? Please leave a comment below, share your experiences, ask any questions you have, and let's get a discussion going. And if you found this insightful and want to explore more ideas on personal growth, strategic thinking, and challenging the status quo, be sure to subscribe. That way you won't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to connecting with you in the comments.